daydreamers, let's dive into something that's often swept under the rug all the time. And it's not really swept under the rug more than I think that like a lot of people just aren't aware of it. But it's how maternal envy doesn't just create tension between a mother and a daughter, but it often pulls siblings into the mix too. This dynamic can play out in a lot of painful ways, and it leaves marks on everyone involved. As I said before, it trickles down. Let's break it down. And like I said, if one of the most common ways this shows up is through unequal treatment. A mother might favor one sibling over the other, often a son or a less challenging child, to avoid feelings of competition. For my mom, what she did was she showed favoritism to my sister until my sister's body started aging, and then my sister became the problem too. For some mothers that have sons, for example, are less likely to evoke feelings of rivalry, so they're often treated as the golden child. And while that favoritism might feel good to the chosen sibling, it leaves the daughter feeling isolated, unseen, and unworthy. And regardless of what sibling it is, whether it's a little sister or a little brother, those feelings are completely valid because in a sense you kind of were. And it's okay to feel like that. It's okay, like in a sense, it's completely normal to have resentment towards your sibling because of that. What's not normal is holding on to that resentment. And then we have to talk about the parentification, which I'm going to have an episode on. So like, subscribe. If the resentant daughter isn't being favored, she might find herself stepping up as a stand-in parent for her sibling. She's helping with homework, cooking meals, maybe even emotionally supporting her brothers or sisters because the mother is emotionally unavailable. And that was more of my mother. It was more of I found myself raising my sister quite literally by the time I was 17, and that's how I ended up becoming a dancer, is because I had to be able to provide for it, so my mother would do nothing to help me, not even sign a work permit. So let's think about it. If you're still a child yourself and you're expected to carry responsibilities far beyond your years, that's an overwhelming amount of pressure. And it often leads to burnout, resentment, and a deep fear of being unsupported in your own relationships later in life, which is pretty much what I was used to in most of my relationships. And I mean, in the sense it was okay because, you know, my mom did it. So I thought that was love. That's not love. Love is not that. Love is supportive. You learn early on that if you don't show up, no one will. And that's how the hyper independency comes about. And I do plan to do a deep dive on that as well. So like and subscribe, because we're going to the nitty gritty. But anyway, let's not forget about sibling rivalry. In some families, the mother might pit her children against each other, favoring one while criticizing another. This creates competition for the mother's love, which fractures the bond between siblings. Sisters, for example, may grow up resenting each other instead of seeing each other as allies. And my mom and my aunt, they went through that with their mother. That's all I can say about that. That's not my story to tell. The mother's actions sow seeds of jealousy, bitterness, and long-term resentment that can take years to untangle. And as we go into these different dynamics of the sibling rivalry, you know, like a lot of the things that went on with my mom and my aunt makes a lot of more sense to me. And it also makes sense as to why she treated me and my sister the way she did. But now let's talk about the emotional fallout for siblings in this kind of environment, because it kind of sucks. Because me and my sister went through a very bad time of an emotional fallout once I got pregnant with my daughter. And for the most part, it was for a lot of different reasons. And one of the main reasons was because I was just about to turn 25. She had just turned 18. I just turned 24. She was about to turn 18. And I was finally free. You know, I had sacrificed my whole life to be able to make sure that I didn't leave my sister in the dust. I remember times where I would run away from home and then come back to make sure that she had Christmas presents and to make sure she had birthday presents and stuff, even with the chances of being sent back to the D home. And for those of you who don't know, the D home is the juvenile detention center here in Alabama. in my city, I don't know what it's called in other cities of Alabama, but in my city, it is the Juvenile Detention Center, and we call it the D home. And if you are a runaway, it's pretty much just an active warrant to pick you up and hold you until your parents can come pick you up. And mind you, my mom knew I was there all the time, but in my city, you have to do the runaway in order not to go to jail for them not to going to school. So legally, it was just to cover her own ass. So, But I had, in my mind at that time, I had gave up so much of my life, and then to now be pregnant and starting all the way over, there was a resentment there, because now you get to live your life free. You don't have the crutches or the weight of a sibling holding you down to take care of. You have no responsibilities, and I've lived my entire life abiding by these principles of that my sister needs me and I'm going to take care of my sister. And once I got pregnant, it just became one of those things where I feel like I had wasted my life, and me and my sister have talked about it, and I to this day I still feel guilt for feeling like that, because she owes me nothing. To this day, I do not expect my sister to give me anything for me raising her other than being happy. That's all I want from any of my kids. And yes, that is considered my child. That is my grown-up child. That's my oldest, man. I love her to death. We raised each other. You know what I'm saying? And it was one of those things where at that moment, my mother rubbed off on me. You owed me something. And I didn't know what. I just felt like I had wasted all these years, and in return, all I got was to start over. And it was a selfish way to think. And in that moment, I realized that my mother had rubbed off on me a lot more than I thought she would have, or that she ever could have. And it hurt. So then in that moment, not only was I pissed about my sister, I was pissed about my mom too. And I couldn't take it out on anyone but my sister. So it got to a point, very early in my pregnancy, my sister moved out. And we didn't talk for a very, up until right at the end of my pregnancy. And we actually just, when you come from a toxic family, time is the apology. But at some point, we finally sat down and had a conversation. And I apologized, because she didn't deserve that. And for anyone that is going through that, just know that it is completely normal what you're going through. Never! It is completely normal what you're going through, but we have to heal in order to be able to reconcile and mend those relationships, because they are relationships that should last a lifetime. No, your sister is supposed to be your first best friend. And we are still going through the cycle. And mind you, my daughter's 5 now. We're still going through the cycle of trying to get everything together and figure everything out. But time heals, and time heals along with action. So for anyone out there that is currently going through that, sit down with your sibling, talk to them, let them know what you was feeling in that moment. After you have process it first, and then sit them down. Let them know what you were feeling in that moment. Let them know how you were feeling. And I'm sure my sister is going to watch this, so I just want to let you know, sissy, that I love you to death. And again, I am sorry, because we both deserved better. I love you. All right, sorry about that. But anyway, all right, then there's the resented sibling. They're growing up feeling rejected, undervalued, and like they're always coming in second. They may internalize that rejection, believing that they're not good enough, or externalizing it by resenting both the favored sibling and the mother. Things happen, and it's okay. Resentment can happen when your own mother is the downfall of the sibling dynamic. So, I really want y'all to take this year out to process things like that and reach out to your siblings, man. It's time. If you was looking for a sign, this is it. And when one child is forced into a parenting role, it creates resentment toward everyone. The mother for shrinking her responsibilities, and the siblings for needing so much, even though they just need to be taken care of, and you have to step up to the plate because your mother won't, and that can create resentment. That resentment can spill over into adulthood, making it hard to maintain healthy relationships, especially with your siblings. For the daughter who takes on the third role of the parent, the pressure is immense. You're still a kid, but you're expected to act like an adult. You're expected to be a role model for a child that you did not bring into this world. And that is a lot, because honestly, as a child, we shouldn't be expected to be role models. You're expected to act like an adult, and that kind of responsibility can leave you to feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, and deeply afraid of being unsupported later in life. And many of us go unsupported later in life because we choose people that are unsupportive because we think that that's what love is. See how the trickle starts here? You might struggle to trust that others will show up for you because as a child, you learned that no one did. I remember one time, my mom called me all day, every day, all day, y'all, all day on my birthday, telling me she was finna bring me this ice cream cake. I missed my birthday party sitting on my porch waiting for an ice cream cake that never came, and I didn't get an explanation for why she wasn't coming. I was maybe 7, y'all. And that was the day that I decided that, like, no one was to be trusted. And imagine being that young and having to face that type of disappointment so young and coming to that conclusion so young. Like, we didn't stand a chance. And I'll keep telling y'all that. Like, we didn't stand a chance to not be traumatized. But it is up to us to heal. Because as I keep saying, these dynamics don't just fade away. They ripple into adulthood. They shape how you see yourself, how you interact with your siblings, and how you navigate relationships. But here's the thing. Here is the thing. Because recognizing these patterns is the first step to healing. It is the first step to breaking free from them and breaking those generational curses, y'all. The first step will always be recognition to anything. Recognition and acceptance. If this resonates with you, here are a few steps you can take to start healing. As I always say, therapy. Working with a therapist can help you process the resentment, guilt, and feelings of inadequacy that often come from these dynamics. I did a month of BetterHelp, and I think it was $250 for one FaceTime session a week and unlimited texting no matter what time of the night. And to be honest, those first sessions helped. I really plan to go back when I can afford it, or if they sponsor me, shout out to BetterHelp. But, anyway, rebuild sibling bonds. As adults, you and your siblings can work to repair your relationship by acknowledging the roles you were forced into and understanding that you were all victims of the same dynamic. And as I said, understanding that is the first step to getting back in a good space with your siblings. As I keep saying, I want y'all, that's the only homework I give y'all all year. Please process what you went through and then talk to your siblings. Also, learn to set boundaries. Learn to protect your emotional energy by setting boundaries with your mama. This isn't about pushing her away, but it can be. It's often about creating a healthier dynamic for yourself. And then self-compassion. Remind yourself, give yourself grace, y'all, that your worth isn't tied to how much you do for others. It's not tied to how many people like you, and it's not tied to if someone loves you. Love yourself. It's okay to prioritize your own needs and let go of the guilt you might carry. Because growing up in a household where maternal envy creates tension and competition is tough. It is very tough. And it's hard to heal from that because, in a sense, the one person that was supposed to be biologically engineered to love you didn't do it right. So you try to convince yourself that no one will, but that's not how it is because that doesn't define you. You're allowed to heal. You're allowed to be loved correctly. You're allowed to set boundaries and to create the life and relationships that you deserve. So let's take a moment to breathe. I gotta stop smoking cigarettes. That was not a deep enough breath. Take a moment to breathe. Give yourself credit for showing up, for recognizing these patterns, and being willing to do the work. Because it is work, y'all. It's not easy. They make healing look so fun on the little IG videos of people going to Bora Bora and shit. Sometimes they sit in the rooms and cry in them cabanas. They just not going to tell you that. But that's no small thing. Healing isn't small. It is worth celebrating. So let's celebrate right now. Woo, woo! Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's heal, y'all. Let's jump on the healing bag and get to it. So now we're going to talk about how this affects a tiny little baby brain. Because Like being 7 going through things like that is hard on the brain. It doesn't just affect your emotions. It literally rewires your brain, especially when it's done during childhood and adolescent stages when your brain is still developing and at its most fragile. So let's break this down so we can really understand what's going on. And this is going to be a lot of big words that I cannot pronounce. I tried. I went to Google Speech. Really I need y'all to bear with me on this. All right. Love, bunches, kisses. Mwah, mwah. All right. So children need emotional safety to thrive. It's like the foundation for everything. Your self-worth, your ability to learn, even how you manage your emotions as an adult. But when maternal envy creates an environment of consistent criticism or competition, that foundation gets shaky, doesn't it? It becomes very fragile and it fractures very easily. When you grow up in a home like that, your brain goes into survival mode at a very early stage in life. And for a lot of us, we really don't come out of it until we start recognizing a lot of things. And I'm going to be 30 in June. I just came out of survival mode. I've been in survival mode my whole life. Those are really hard revelations to come to. But here we are. This triggers something called the HPA axis, which is the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal system. And it floods your brain with cortisol, which is the stress hormone. Now, a little cortisol here and there, that's fine. But when it's constant, that's when the problems start coming in, you know? What that stress does to a child's brain. Because mind you, these are undeveloped little baby brains that we're talking about. Our brains. I'm talking about our brains when we were babies. Little baby brains. So, first, there's the amygdala. Amygdala. Which is the brain's fear center. When you're exposed to constant stress, the amygdala becomes overactive. That makes you more prone to anxiety and hypervigilance. Always feeling like you're walking on eggshells and scanning the room for danger. Like, it's a very sad way to live. You're living in a constant state of paranoia. All right, I'm going to break that down into less scientific terms. You living in a constant state of paranoia and fear. And I know that a lot of us have dealt with that in our relationships as well because we thought that's what love was. That's not love. Second, this is an easy one. Second, there's the hippocampus. The part of the brain that handles memory and learning. Chronic stress can actually cause it to shrink. That can make it harder for you to retain information or process emotional experiences in a healthy way. And honestly, I want to know, I'm going to Google it and I'm going to put it right here. But I want to know, does the hippocampus, can it regenerate? Since it can shrink, can it expand when we start healing? I'm going to Google that and I'll put it right here and let y'all know. Because that's actually I want to know what that's about. All right. And then there's the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for decision making and emotional regulation. When cortisol floods the brain, this part doesn't function well at all. It doesn't function as it should at all. That's why it can feel so hard to manage your emotions or make sound decisions when you're dealing with this kind of upbringing. And let me also add that is why you become so emotional when you're in a very toxic relationship and everything becomes so hypersensitive and they call you triggered all the time. Here we are. And the effects don't stop there, y'all. Maternal envy shapes your emotional landscape. Long after your childhood, let's look at how this plays out, in the long term. Because at the end of the day, we do have to realize that everything that happens to us has a long-term effect. Every action has a reaction. So, first, it lowers your self-worth. You're growing up under constant scrutiny, criticism, and competition, and it makes you internalize the idea that you're not good enough. And I just want to let you know that you are good enough. You are so brave. You are loved. I am here for you, and you are good enough again. You start to believe that your value is tied to something external. And let's not forget the attachment issues that come with this. When maternal envy creates inconsistent caregiving, it leaves you with a shaky foundation for relationships. You might find it hard to trust people, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Or on the flip side, You might attach to people too quickly, looking for the love and validation you didn't get at home. That can lead to codependency, and that's a very unhealthy way to live. And it also will probably always lead to heartbreak. I'm not saying that emotionally codependent people cannot be in healthy relationships, but what I'm saying is that it's unhealthy. Not saying that it doesn't work for some people. I'm just saying that it's unhealthy. So let's take the time to heal from those type of things, because I was one. I got so wrapped up in relationships that I missed out on a lot of things in life. But the part we don't talk about, identity struggles. Growing up with a mother whose envy shapes the emotional climate makes it hard to know who you really are. You're so used to navigating her feelings, her projections, her expectations that you lose touch with your own. Are your dreams yours? Or are they just reactions to what she wanted and didn't want for you? That kind of confusion can leave you feeling lost. Like you're not really in control of your own life, because you aren't. I'm sorry. Now, let me be clear. These patterns are not your fault. You didn't choose this dynamic, but here's the good news. You don't have to stay stuck in it. The brain is resilient, and with the right tools, you can start to rewire those patterns. Breaking these patterns is hard work, no doubt about it. But it's also some of the most important work you'll ever do. Because when you heal, you're not just healing for yourself. You're healing for the generations that come after you. You're rewriting the story, and that's powerful, my friend. So take the time to breathe, give yourself credit, give yourself grace. Remember that therapeutical practices like therapy and even just talking to someone that you deeply trust are all good ways to start. You can also start with mindful practices. Move away from those like sometimes you need to isolate yourself in order to understand yourself better. I know that things like this make you, like a lot of us are scared to be alone in this world, and that's okay. But at some point, once you start healing, being alone is all you ever want to do. I promise you. You got this though. All right, now let's talk about it. Are y'all ready to talk about it? The Mean Girl pipeline. We all know the stereotype, but what if I told you that the roots of mean girl behavior often goes way deeper than we realize? When you grow up in an environment where love feels conditional based on performance, beauty, or achievements, you start to believe that your worth is something you have to earn, and the way you measure that worth through comparison. Of course, I did it. I had to be the baddest in the city at one point in time. I didn't care. And I don't care. Wig, nappy, and all. I didn't care. It didn't matter. And I compared myself to everybody. And you know what it did? Made me depressed. This is often how mean girl behavior starts. It's not about being inherently cruel. It's a survival mechanism. If you've been taught that love and validation are scarce, you might start seeing other women, not just your mother, as competition. It's this belief. If they win, I lose. And it's an insane way to think, but I thought like that. So I'm laughing at myself. I'm not laughing at anybody else. It's a lot, yo. It's a lot to deal with. And realizing that I was a mean girl, and because it's become such a trending way of like being a bad, you have to be a mean girl. But that survival mindset can show up in a few ways. So gossiping or putting others down to feel superior, using charm or manipulation to stay in control of relationships, feeling threatened by other women's success, just like your mom may have felt threatened by yours. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? And it sounds crazy to me looking back at that. I actually was that type of person. Mean girls are like, and I'm not saying that should be studied, because technically we have come to the conclusion of what it is. And with some of them, this may not be they could just be women. But here's the thing: becoming a mean girl isn't empowering. It's isolating. Not a real woman want to be around it. Not a healed person want to be around that. And you'll be surprised how many people just don't like mess. Sure, on the surface, it might look confident or in control, but deep down, you're still craving the unconditional love you never received. Instead of asking for it, though, or trying to heal so you can find it, you're building walls and defense mechanisms to push people away, because if I push them away before they leave, who won? So let's take a deeper look at how this pipeline forms. It often starts with the environment you grew up in, especially if there was a lot of criticism or competition in your household. That's just, I mean, If you grew up with an envious, narcissistic mother as a daughter, more than likely you may have had a mean girl phase. It's really sad to say. And now when I look at a lot of mean girls, I feel really bad for them. But, okay, for example, if your mother displayed jealousy or criticism, you might have learned to associate relationships with rivalry. If she saw other women or even you as competition, it teaches you that love isn't safe. And relationships with women are about survival and competition, not support and love. And I just want to let y'all all know that I am so glad that I am healed, because I am a girl's girl and I want to see all of my girls win. I can't believe that I used to be a not one. And then, mind you, I started dancing so early that I feel like that had a lot, because I grew up around a lot of mean girls then, basically. So it looked popular. It looked cute. All the bad bitches was mean girls. Then there's the fear of vulnerability. Growing up in an environment where you were judged or measured, you learned that being open wasn't safe. So instead of letting people in, you might have started using gossiping, manipulation, or superiority as a shield to protect yourself. And so being a mean girl is all defense and survival. And I really want any mean girl that's watching this to know that you are loved and you don't have to be defensive. You can heal and be a girl's girl, because it's way more fun. And let's not forget comparison. If love in your household felt tied to attachments or looks, you start measuring your worth against others. Someone else's success, beauty, or confidence, it doesn't feel like something to celebrate. It feels like a threat. It feels like you offended by their accomplishments. You shouldn't be offended by other people's accomplishments. You should be motivated. You should. So what happens when you have all of that going on up in that tiny little brain that finally became an adult and you didn't heal from it? You build these walls, push others down, and try to outshine them. But deep down, you're still hurting. The mean girl behavior is just a mask for those feelings of inadequacy and a craving for connection. And I mean, it's okay to want love and connection and to feel adequate to other human beings. That's really what, like, you should feel like that. And regardless of who told you different or conditioned you to believe anything else, you feel like that. It doesn't matter. Be yourself and be happy with who you are and in your skin. But here's the thing. You can break free from this pipeline. You're not stuck in it forever. The first step is understanding where these behaviors come from. They're not who you are. They're learned responses to pain, insecurity, and heartbreak. And it's okay to have insecurities. It's okay to have gone through pain. It's okay to have trauma. But the best way to start getting away from this trauma and healing from this trauma is by acknowledging the root cause. Understanding that mean girl behavior comes from a place of insecurity, unmet needs, and inadequate love. It's not about being bad. It's about protecting yourself in unhealthy environments and in unhealthy ways. And although that is okay to protect yourself, you don't have to hurt other people in order to do it. Another way to start healing from this mean girl pipeline is challenge the scarcity of mindset. Remind yourself that there's enough love, success, and validation to go around. Someone else's win doesn't take away from yours. Just because they win doesn't mean you lose. If they win, you actually win too, because they're paving the way for more women to be able to feel like it's okay to be accomplished and not just be in the kitchen all day like the red pill want us to be. I digress. Practice vulnerability. Let yourself be open and honest with people. Yes, it's scary, but it's the only way to build genuine connections. If you have ADHD like me, or you just simply an oversharer, I'm sure this isn't hard for you. That's how I got here. I'm an oversharer. Which brings me to find healthy validation. Find people that love you and see the worth within yourself instead of seeking comparison or external approval. Therapy and journaling is also very helpful. Mindfulness, and celebrate with other women. Shift from competition to collaboration. When you lift others up, you build a sense of community, instead of isolation. Let's build a community, because like I just said, if they win, you win. Ask them girls questions about how they got where they wanted to be, if that's something you trying to strive to do. If they doing nails and you thinking about doing nails, don't get upset. The mean girl pipeline isn't a life sentence. It's a response to pain, and pain can be healed. At the end of the day, we all want the same thing: unconditional love and acceptance. And the good news, you can get that to yourself. You can give it to yourself. Nobody has to give it to you. So take a moment to breathe, acknowledge the work you're already doing just by being here and reflecting on these patterns. You're already on the path to healing, and that's worth celebrating. Now that we've unpacked the weight of these family dynamics, let's talk about something equally important: healing. Because while the past shapes us, it doesn't have to define us. I really just want to appreciate you for being here today. Breaking free from those patterns is hard work, but it's possible and so worth it. The first step in healing is awareness. You can't fix what you don't acknowledge. Recognize, process, and heal. Recognizing these roles you were forced into as a child. Recognize them now, whether it was the caretaker, the competitor, or the scapegoat. All of this recognition helps you to understand that those roles weren't your fault. You didn't ask for them. And to be honest, they don't define your worth or who you are. I personally think that times like this, you should just take some time to breathe, to start to break it down and to understand yourself and allowing yourself to feel. Because for many of us, these childhood emotions, you know, the ones I'm talking about, the resentment, the sadness, the guilt, they get buried because they were too overwhelming at the time. And healing means that you have to dig those things back up. You have to give yourself permission to feel those emotions now. You have to cry about them. You can get angry about them if you need to. Go to a rage room, a rec room, whatever they're calling it, where you go pay to smash stuff. Do whatever you need to do to process and cope with that grief healthily. It's okay to grieve about what you didn't receive. It's okay to feel angry about the unfairness. And it's okay to let these feelings surface so you can release them. Because you have to be able to release them. Even if you need to try trauma-focused therapy like EMDR, journaling, and mindful practices. EMDR is very helpful, and it has actually helped me to be able to process and release a lot of the things that I went through with my mother. I do believe that one of my next episodes is going to be on EMDR because scientifically I'm still trying to figure out how it works, but it did something. Another key part of healing is setting boundaries. I'll stress that all the time. This can be hard, especially with family, but it's necessary. Boundaries aren't about shutting people out. They're about protecting your energy. And to be real, sometimes they are. I don't really understand. I put that in there because I don't want you just running around here just isolated in your house for weeks at a time. But if you got to cut people off, cut their ass off. Doesn't matter. It can also mean living in conversations with your mother if needed be, or maybe it means stepping back from a role you've outgrown with her, like being the emotional support system, the financial support system, or even just being her emotional punching bag. You can let that go. You do not have to deal with people that treat you any type of way. I don't like it, and I don't respect it. Don't let them do you like that. Now, let's talk about rebuilding sibling relationships. If you grew up in a household where competition was norm, it can feel strange to see your siblings as allies instead of rivals because that's what you were conditioned to do. But here's the thing. You were all shaped by the same dynamics. It's time to have an open, honest conversation with your siblings about your experiences and theirs. And this can be an incredible healing process. You might be surprised to learn how much they had been through and that they felt the same pressures and pain as you, because that was something that blew my mind when I finally sat down with my sister and learned about a lot of the things that she had went through. And it actually kind of made me mad because in a sense, she wasn't able to escape like I was because my mother didn't raise me. She raised my sister up until I started getting my sister. My dad's mother raised me. So I didn't get the amount of resentment as she did. And it hurts. It'll actually hurt you. So let's also be prepared. And don't forget about self-compassion. This is a big one. It's easy to blame yourself for the roles you played or the mistakes you made along the way. But remember, you were doing the best you could with what you knew and what you had at the time. And that's all you can do. That's all I'll ever ask y'all to do is y'all best. Healing starts with forgiving yourself for surviving the only way you knew how. And that goes with anything, whether it's with an envious, narcissistic mother, a narcissistic relationship, and an abusive partner. Forgive yourself for staying or dealing with it for as long as you did, because you had logical reasons. Even if they weren't logical to other people, they were logical to you. And I guarantee you they logical to me. I understand. Finally, give yourself permission to redefine love and connection. These dynamics you grew up with don't have to be the blueprint for your future relationships. You can learn to build connections that are healthy, supportive, and rooted in mutual love, understanding, commitment, and respect. It takes time, but every step you take, every day that goes by brings you closer to the love and acceptance that you so rightfully deserve.
And I just want you all to know that you are loved, you are special, and you are so brave. Healing isn't linear. It's not something you have to do perfectly, and everybody has a different healing journey, and everybody will go about their journey a different way. It's messy, it's uncomfortable, and it's so worth it. The fact you're even thinking about healing, that you're showing up, that you're even showing up for yourself in this way. That's a huge step. Being here, huge step. Subscribing, very big step, because I know I'm gonna get real annoying with these videos, and the fact that out of all the things that you could have subscribed to get a notification about, and you chose little old me, little dear old me, is amazing to me, and I am so grateful and appreciative for you for being here, whether you subscribe or not. But take it one day at a time, one step at a time, and remember, you don't have to do this alone. Whether it's therapy, supportive friends, or even sitting here with me, you're building something better for yourself, and that in itself is worth celebrating. So celebrate that thing. Whoop, 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 whoop. You got this, daydreamers. Remember to always give yourself grace. Like, subscribe, and I'm sorry that this video ran so long. I really didn't expect this video to be almost an hour long. I'm sorry. But I love you for being here. You're so amazing, you're so great, you're so awesome. I'm so soft on the bottom, baby. But, alright, daydreamers, before we wrap up, I want to leave you with this.
Healing from these common dynamics is not easy. It's not a quick fix, nor a straight path. It's messy, it's layered, and some days it might feel impossible, and it's going to be very painful. Healing is hard, and triggers come in different forms. I was riding down the street yesterday and seen a car that looked exactly like my mom's old car and just burst out in tears. Thanksgiving, I wanted to call her so bad and try to reconcile, but I had to remember that some people just don't deserve reconciliation or want it. Every step you take, no matter how small, is a step toward freedom, toward peace, and toward becoming the person you were always meant to be. Growing up in a space where you felt conditional, circumstantial, competitive, and tension-shaped love and relationships can leave scars. But scars don't last forever. I got some on my face I've been trying to get rid of, and I'm going to let y'all know what I've been using for it. But even the deepest scars can go away with the right treatment. That it's just proof that you survived, that you lived to fight another day.
And I know. Who said we wanted to fight another day? To be honest with you, I don't have an answer for you, but we're here, so we're gonna do it together, and we're gonna like it, okay? And now you had a chance to do more than survive. You had a chance to thrive, so let's do it. We might have not wanted to live to see another day last year, but we're here still, right? Woo, woo, woo. Give yourself the grace to go at your own pace. Healing isn't about perfection, it's about progress. It's about forgiving yourself for the roles you were forced to play and choosing to write a new story for yourself, one filled with love, boundaries, and self-compassion. And that's amazing, right? That we have that ability to do that for ourselves. Don't go looking for someone to heal you. Heal yourself. It's okay to heal yourself. Now, if you just so happen to find someone that heals you as you heal yourself, that is okay. But
if you ever felt like you were too much or not enough, like your worth was tied to how well you performed or how much you gave, let me tell you this. You are enough, just as you are. You don't need to earn love or prove your value. It's already within you. It's there. You're worth 1,000,000 times more. And don't ever let anybody tell you any different. So as you step away from this conversation, I genuinely want you to remember this. And remember this well. You deserve healthy, loving relationships. You deserve peace. You deserve to take up space in this world without an apology. You deserve just to exist. Just exist. Healing takes time, but every little effort you make is a victory. Celebrate those wins. Celebrate them. Every last one. Every day. Celebrate it. No matter how small. No matter how small, no matter how big, celebrate a win. Because they absolutely do matter. Thank you for being here with me today. Thank you for choosing yourself first. Thank you for existing. Thank you for seeing another day. Thank you for being able to sit here with these truths with me, even when they're uncomfortable. That willingness to reflect, to grow, to heal, that's what's going to change the dynamic of your life and change everything for the better. Because a smart man knows that he doesn't know everything. You know what I'm saying? And it's okay to not know everything. It's okay to have bad days. It's okay to have burrito days or couch riding days, whatever they're calling it on TikTok. It's okay to not be okay sometimes. But I just want you to take care of yourself the best way you can, daydreamers. Be kind to yourself. Keep dreaming and working towards the life you deserve. And until next time, one daydream at a time.